Welcome to HavenShine Reviews, Episode 7. Nick, this is your third one in a row.
Woo!
Hey, you're going to end up bumping me out. But I'm Ron, and this is Nick, and we're going to talk about Tom and Jerry today. But before we do, we're going to take care of all the business part of it. Make sure you get on Rhode Island Broadcasting. You click subscribe on YouTube and follow on Facebook. Then you go over to HavenShine.net. You get on there, check out the website, all the reviews and stuff like that. It's all on there. And on Facebook, you click follow. So that way you know where we are at all times. And I hope there's not like a camera following us around, so that way they actually do know where we are at all times. But Tom and Jerry, we're going to be fighting. Because I thought, it's Tom and Jerry, and I thought it was pretty wonderful. So let's get into it. The acting believability. Of course, the main actors are Tom and Jerry, and they are animated. So how do you go about bringing the believability with Tom and Jerry? Well, in my book, you pull it out from the animated cartoon, and if they are similar to how it was on the cartoon, then the higher the score, the more like the original. Spoiler alert, that's the way I feel.
Okay. I felt a little bit differently.
So how did you put your actor believability?
So when I was thinking about actor believability, I was mostly thinking of the human actors within the movie. The Tom and Jerry acting and the thing that they were doing, I sort of scored that along more with the production side of things, since that is more what was going on there. Really, when they're actually shooting the movie, the actors who are there live acting are looking at maybe some little stick figures going around, and that's how they frame what's going on with the animated characters. But they're also, a lot of times in the movie, acting with each other, and those parts were the parts that really fell short for me. A lot of the performance in this is blocky, flat. I know I'm using words that are cliches, but not much else I could say about it. Tom and Jerry was great. When they were on the screen, I was happy, and they interacted well with the actors in a physical manner. But when those actors were interacting with each other, that's why I scored a 6 on this category.
Yeah, see, I gave the actor believability a 9 because I felt when Tom and Jerry were on screen, it was like watching the original cartoons on TV. And, they didn't have them talking and stuff like that, just like the original. And like you said, when they were together, it was magic. It was magic. And I didn't attribute when they weren't on the screen to this score. So that to me, I thought Tom and Jerry as the characters, I thought they were fantastic. And I think they did a really good job capturing it. And I thought Jerry looked almost identical.
No, I don't. I actually don't disagree with anything you said.
So supporting cast, I gave it an 8.5. He gave it a 6, and I gave it an 8.5. Look, they weren't great actors, but I thought the actors that they did have in that comedy role did what they were supposed to do, and then there were some other actors that really did do a good job, and then there were some that were kind of stiff, but they weren't major in the movie. So my 8.5 kind of showed those people that was supposed to be that stupid kind of character, and then the ones that actually did a good job. Which it is what it is. So
you see, I don't have a problem with some of the very small supporting cast roles within the movie, like that bellhop girl. I thought she was really charming.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
One somebody said, I think she's raised by wolves. I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
A couple of those were funny. The bartender, I thought he did a really good job.
Yes.
But the closer you go up towards being a main character, I feel like those people really just didn't do a great job interacting, again, just with each other. Yeah. Everybody's scenes with Tom and Jerry were played out extremely well. Like you said, it really recaptured that magic.
But when they were on their own without Tom and Jerry, then
it just stuck out so much to me. Even because a lot of these actors, they're really good. They're really good actors. In my book, the movies I've seen them in before, they are not performing in the way that they performed in this movie. Even one of my favorite supporting, like he's almost never been a main character in a movie, Ken Jeong. I mean, you can just think right off the top some of the most iconic supporting roles ever. Leslie Chow. Yeah. And what does he do in this movie? I mean, he's just angry. Yeah. And he's used as a plot device to help.
I didn't even count him in the supporting roles.
See, because he's just so forgettable. That was the real crime for me, is the forgettability.
So I understand what you're saying, and I'd probably give you that one because, I did forget about him, and I actually forgot about the couple that was getting married.
Ben and
they were terrible.
Ben and Pierre.
Yeah, they were terrible. They were terrible.
They had no chemistry. I don't know how you pick those two people to be married.
I don't know. Screenwriting. I gave it an 8.5. You gave it a 7. Not too far off there. And I already know what you're going to say about the screenwriting, so fire away.
Tom and Jerry, great. Literally great. Fantastic. They had all the quips of, that you're looking for in the old cartoon, hitting somebody on the head and then the bump grows, let me push that bump down. Those scenes were great. You got the cloud of chaos going on. Those were done well. But again, I was almost taken out of the movie when these human characters who are not supposed to be very important in an animated role
they're too important.
They're too
important. I totally get it. I think yours is. You are enlightening me right now because, I thought I was going to come on and I was going to let him have it today, and he's actually changing my mind. So storyline, and I don't get this, and this is probably where I am going to hammer you. You gave it a 4. I gave it a 9, and to me, in the type of movie that it is, you're putting those characters into a real life situation. I thought the storyline was great. Here's Jerry finds this spot, makes it his home, and Tom wants to get in there because Jerry's in there, so he's trying to figure out how to go about this, and then he lands the job, of trying to get rid of Jerry. And I think the whole storyline, I think the storyline worked. It's just, like you said, the acting kind of fell apart. And even though I would have liked to see the whole movie with just Tom and Jerry in it, but you have to realistically, this is a full-length movie, you have to have some sort of a plot. And I think they blended the plot very well. I thought it went very well. And, of course, you did not agree with that.
No. Now, I think I might be harping a little bit too much on the human characters in the movie ruining it for me, but I have to bring it up with the storyline because the parts of the story that you were talking about being right at the beginning of the film where Jerry, is in the hotel and Tom wants to get in the hotel, all these story elements revolved around Tom and Jerry. Right. Now, where it gets me, where that 4 comes from, is when the wedding starts to become more and more and more important, is when I start to care less and less and less and less about it. Because I want something exactly like the beginning. I want a reason for Tom and Jerry to have conflict, and I didn't feel like the wedding, it felt like this is Tom and Jerry's conflict about the hotel, they're going right at it, and then the wedding is here, and it just stayed there, just stayed to the side. Obviously the hotel's in the wedding, so they have to go to it because it's in the hotel.
But this is what I think, that becomes the storyline. And I think them being involved in that storyline gives them more of a reason for conflict. And then, and we'll get to the ending. So that becomes the storyline, and then all of a sudden they're put in this position where they have to work together, even though they still hate each other. but they had to work with each other to get through to hopefully, be able to stay at the hotel.
Right.
So that becomes part of their story that they have to fight within themselves. And I think that's why the storyline was even better than what I could have imagined. And that's why I loved the storyline. And it could have been any reason for the hotel to have an event. It just happened to be a wedding, and I think it worked. I think it worked.
Thinking back on it, I am thinking that these two characters are inherently selfish, Tom and Jerry. They're only animals. They can only be concerned with themselves.
Yeah, so
I guess a wedding does bring in an aspect that makes you care a little bit more about it.
And if I change your mind a little, that makes up for the 2 that I lost. So we go into the production, and we both gave this a 9.
Yeah.
And the animation itself was pretty good. It was spot on.
I loved every animal being animated.
I loved it too.
Every single animal in the movie, other than human, is animated.
Yes.
I thought
elephants.
I thought it worked amazingly.
It was spectacular.
Yeah.
Even out in the alley with the other cats and stuff.
Right in the beginning, perfectly. When you got the music coming in, and the bird just starts singing to you as the movie's going on. I thought that was really, really cool.
So we had no problem with that production. And let me tell you, it was spot on. Like when you looked at Tom and Jerry, it was Tom and Jerry.
Absolutely.
Like you it took me back.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Music, I gave it an 8. You gave it a 10. And the music was spectacular.
Yes.
The only reason why I gave it an 8 is because the original cartoons, it was all classical music.
Yeah.
And look, I loved all the music. Loved it. It was all great. And it worked in the movie. But there's still that little bit in me. Remember, it's all classical music back in the day. And I think that's exactly why I gave it an 8.
Yeah.
Like, because there was nothing wrong with the music. So you will love the music. But that nostalgia in me knocked off a couple of points because of that.
I surprised myself with the music, actually. I was thinking when I was going into the movie, I would feel the same way. That if it wasn't this big classical orchestrated piece of that's both music that interacts with the characters, like let's say a character bumps down the stairs, you've got a violin, right?
Yeah.
But I literally was like bouncing in my chair to some of the music in that movie.
No, it was great. It was great. Background. You gave it a 9. You gave it an 8. Again, that's really, we're talking about, putting them like in the city and all of that stuff. Obviously, they don't have costumes and all that stuff, but the rest of the cast does. And I think for what they were trying to do, I think the costuming and the background of the hotel and the settings in the alleys and stuff like that, I think they did a really good job with that.
Yeah,
and I think it worked. Not so sure. The scene with the Central Park kind of doesn't even look like Central Park to me. But
that was where most of my points come off.
Yeah,
I like
that one. That took a point off.
Yeah,
and that's really the only problem. That's the only problem I had because it didn't look like Central Park.
It feels like New York, and then does not feel like Central Park. Super weird. I don't know how you even do that. Such an iconic place.
Yep.
But that's where the points off come from me too.
Entertainment factor. I gave it a 9, you gave it a 7, and I obviously going to know why.
Yes.
It's because of the human element.
It is because of the human element.
And it's funny, too, because I think, for the most part, I kind of ignored that for this movie, because when I was watching Tom and Jerry, I was so happy. It was so good. And, of course, the scene with Tom and Jerry and Spike. You get the dog in there. You get all these other animals, the elephants. Like, there was a lot of entertainment in this. And, scene by scene, you look at it, most of the all the scenes with Tom and Jerry were perfect.
Yeah, they were done really well.
It would have been nice to have more. But, there were some other scenes with the humans that were pretty good. they were entertaining to a point, good enough to put in between the scenes that you did get with Tom and Jerry.
Yeah, my 7 definitely just comes from, like you said, the human aspect of it. So I felt kind of weird. There's a couple stages in the movie where there's maybe 5 to 7 minutes of just humans interacting with other humans, and like no, I don't want to say like wacky stuff, but it is Tom and Jerry. No wacky stuff happening, and I just really miss Tom and Jerry being on the screen. That was where those points off come from me. And
that totally makes sense because you changed my mind with 2 of those other categories, and I kind of agree with that as well. Ending. See, you gave this a 7. I gave the ending a 10. I thought the ending was awesome. And you look at, all the things, the way they get married, blah, blah, blah. That's not where I considered the ending. It's from that point on where you get Tom and Jerry, the dog, and all these other, and they start chasing each other again, going right back to where they belong and hating each other. And I thought that was the ending that I wanted to see, and I got the ending that I wanted to see. So nothing is all well in Tom and Jerry land. They're going to be back at it.
Yeah, they can't not.
So that's why I gave this a 10, because of that part. Not the wedding, because of that.
I took 3 points off of that 10 down to a 7 for a couple main reasons. I actually did like the elements that you're talking about in the ending. Wraps up everything nicely. I did not like it feels like a cheap lead off into a sequel that I already don't care about the human characters in this movie anyway, so I wouldn't like to see them again. I love Tom and Jerry, and so I am fine with them hating each other still, but it just seemed kind of cheap. It seemed like a studio.
But see, that's the whole thing, is like, they're not all happy with each other. It doesn't matter where they go from here, because they could literally go anywhere.
Yeah.
They could end up anywhere. They can end up in your backyard. That would be great. If they ended up in my backyard, I'd love it. I'd be watching out that window every day. All right. The last category, watchability. Can you watch this again?
I would skip through the human parts, but eyes are glued to the TV when Tom and Jerry are just interacting with each other in any sense of the word. So I get a 7 for that category. I would have scored a little higher, but again, human element.
Yeah, I gave it an 8.5. I think the parts with the human element is definitely good enough to get through, to watch Tom and Jerry go at it. I think it was definitely watchable again. In fact, I probably will watch that again, because Tom and Jerry was one of my favorites back then. So overall, you gave it a 71. I gave it an 88.5, but I'll knock it down probably a good 2 points for those places where I probably scored it a little higher. So you're looking at a B for me and a C- for Nick. So whoever you believe, that's what you go with. I'm gonna win. So before I go, again, HavenShine.net. Get on there, see all the reviews. Go to HavenShine on Facebook. Get there, subscribe, follow, and of course, Rhode Island Broadcasting. Get on there, click like, click follow, share the video with everybody out there. Share. Go on YouTube, subscribe, click that little bell so you know when we're coming back, and see all the programming that's here at Rhode Island Broadcasting. And we will see you next time on HavenShine Reviews.